Welcome to Quiz Time. I'm your quiz master, Sean, and I've got 100 questions for you about the 1950s and 1960s to have fun, to test your brain, to keep you mentally young. So let's get started with question number 1. What 1960s sitcom has the characters Wilbur and Carol as well as their talking horse? Francis the Talking Mule, Mr. Ed, or Bonanza? And that would be Mr. Ed. Of course. Who won the 1959 World Series? The LA Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox, or was it the St. Louis Cardinals? The 1959 World Series was won by the LA Dodgers. Who is known as the King of Rock and Roll? The King of Rock and Roll is Elvis Presley. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr. were better known as were they the Hot Cats, the Rat Pack, or the City Mutts? They were the Rat Pack. What year was the Frisbee invented? Was it 1960? Was it 1957? Or was it 1952? The Frisbee was invented in 1957. What sitcom was The Flintstones based off of? I Love Lucy, Father Knows Best, or was it The Honeymooners? They were based off of The Honeymooners. What group sang the hit song In the Still of the Night? Was it the Five Satins? Was it the Duprees? Or was it the Landlords? That was sung by the Five Satins. Which of these was a popular dance of the 1950s and 1960s? The twist, the bend, or the squat? That would be the twist. What is the name of the generation of people born between 1946 and 1964? Are they the ageless beauties? Are they the hippie kids? Or are they called the baby boomers? They are the baby boomers. Which singer was shot and killed by Bertha Franklin? Was it John Lennon? Was it Sam Cooke? Or was it Jim Franklin? Bertha Franklin killed Sam Cooke. True or false? In 1950, the Grammy Awards debuted. And that would be false. It was 1959. Which song was a hit for El Martino? To Each His Own, My True Love, or Only You? It was To Each His Own. What was the name of Bill Haley's backup group? Were they the Dippers? Were they the Comets? Or was it Bill Haley and the Constellations? It was Bill Haley and the Comets. Blank suede shoes. Blue suede shoes? Green suede shoes? Or yellow suede shoes? It is and forever shall be. Don't step on my blue suede shoes. In what year were TV dinners introduced? 1960, 1953, or 1959? TV dinners were introduced in 1953. Which court case stated racial segregation in school was unconstitutional? Brown versus King, Brown versus the Kansas Education, or Brown versus the Board of Education? It was Brown versus Board of Education. This famous amusement park opened on July 17, 1955 in Anaheim, California. Was it Dorney Park, Disney World, or Disneyland? It was Disneyland. What profession was Alan Freed? Was he a journalist? Was he an actor? Or was he a disc jockey? Alan Freed was a DJ. What was Audrey Hepburn's debut film? Roman Holiday, Breakfast at Tiffany's, or was it Charade? Audrey Hepburn's debut film was Roman Holiday. What is the date of this headline? Man lands on the moon. July 20th, 1969, November 6th, 1967, or April 10th, 1950? It was July 20th, 1969. In 1960, which candidate did John F. Kennedy defeat? Dwight David Eisenhower, Jimmy Carter, or Richard Nixon? He beat Richard Nixon. In August 1969, cult members led by this man murdered several people: Charles Manson, John Williamson, or Kurt Smith. It was Charles Manson. In what year was Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated? 1964, 1968, or 1963? Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. Who was the first cosmonaut in space? Yuri Gagarin, Andrew Kozlowski, or Luka Moslewski? The first cosmonaut in space was Yuri Gagarin. In what year was the Berlin Wall erected? 1955, 1961, or 1969? The Berlin Wall was erected in 1961. Which actress received the first star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? The first actress was Joanne Woodward. In what year did Lucille Ball and Des Arnaz get divorced? 1960, 1951, or 1968? They got divorced in 1960. What animated show has the characters Fred, Wilma, Barney, and Betty? Is it Rocky and Bullwinkle? Is it the Flintstones? Or is it the Jetsons? That animated show is the Flintstones. True or false? Roger Maris broke Babe Ruth's record, 60 home runs in the 1961 season. Is that true, or is it false? And that is true. Roger Maris beat the record by 1 home run, making the record 61. Barbie's boyfriend, Blank, made his debut on March 11th, 1961. Is Barbie's boyfriend Chris, Devin, or Ken? Of course, her boyfriend is Ken. The French Chef, which debuted in 1962, featured this female chef. Was it Marie Curie, Edith Piaf, or Julia Child? The French Chef was Julia Child. Norma Jean Baker is better known as, is that Grace Kelly? Is it Marilyn Monroe? Or is that Doris Day? Norma Jean Baker's real name, or stage name, Marilyn Monroe. What Finnish architect designed the TWA Flight Center in New York? Was it Juha Leviscu? Was it Elisa Aalto? Or is it Eero Saarinen? That would be Eero Saarinen. Before Johnny Carson took over for The Tonight Show, who was the host? Was it Groucho Marx? Was it Stan Laurel? Or was it Mickey Rooney? Before Johnny, Groucho Marx was the host of The Tonight Show. What is the date of this headline? Alcatraz to shut down. March 21st, 1963, May 15th, 1955, or September 1st, 1969. March 21st, 1963. True or false? Malcolm X gave the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. And that would be false. That was a speech by Martin Luther King Jr. Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated President Kennedy and was then killed on live TV days later by whom? John Wilkes Booth, Jack Ruby, or John Hinckley Jr.? And that would be Jack Ruby. Michelle Yvonne Robinson was born in 1964. Who is her husband? Is it Michael Collins, David Kelly, or Barack Obama? Michelle Yvonne Robinson is the wife of Barack Obama. What British group made their debut on The Ed Sullivan Show on February 9th, 1964? Would that be the Beatles, the Kinsmen, or the Spinners? And that would be the Beatles. Who is Cassius Clay better known as? Muhammad Ali, Ice Cube, or Sonny Liston? Cassius Clay would change his name to Muhammad Ali. The 1964 World's Fair was held where? Astoria Heights, the Queens, Flushing Meadows, the Queens, or Corona, the Queens. It was held on Flushing Meadows in the Queens. AstroTurf made its debut in the Astrodome on what date? April 9th, 1965, November 7th, 1955, or February 12th, 1960. April 9th, 1965. The first teach-in occurred to protest which war? Vietnam War, the Cold War, or the Korean War? And they were protesting the Vietnam War. The most popular novel of the 1960s was it Catch-22, The Valley of the Dolls, or was it To Kill a Mockingbird? The most popular novel of the 60s was The Valley of the Dolls. Their fashion item became a sensation when Mary Quant started selling them at her boutique in London. Were they high heels, the bikini, or miniskirts? That was the beginning of miniskirts. What model was nicknamed the Face of 66? Was it Twiggy? Was it Verushka? or was it Penelope? The face of 66 was Twiggy. What year was the first Super Bowl? Was it 1969? Was it 1967? Or was Super Bowl I in 1960? And Super Bowl I was in 1967. Go Packers. All of these musicians were born in the same year. Kurt Cobain, Faith Hill, Vanilla Ice, Tony Braxton, and Tim McGraw. What year was it? 1962, 1967, or 1955? It was 1967. What Sesame Street character made his debut in a 1967 IBM commercial? Was it Elmo? Was it Big Bird? Or was it Cookie Monster? That was Cookie Monster. What song was Elvis Presley's final #1 hit? Surrender, Suspicious Minds, or Always on My Mind? Elvis Presley's final #1 hit was Suspicious Minds. Blank and blank were the top two names of the 1950s. William and Sally, Paul and Anne, or James and Mary? That was James and Mary. The median cost of a home during the 1950s averaged around what price? $5,000, $6,000, or $7,000? The median cost was $7,000. On this date, the Peanuts comic debuted October 2nd, 1950, December 3rd, 1951, or January 15th, 1960. The Peanuts comic debuted on October 2nd, 1950. On this date, I Love Lucy debuted October 15th, 1955, October 15th, 1951, or October 15th, 1953. It was October 15th, 1951. After King George VI of England died, who became the next to reign? King Edward, King Charles, or Queen Elizabeth II? Following King George VI, it was Queen Elizabeth II. Where did John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Bouvier wed? In the Hamptons, on Martha's Vineyard, or in Newport, Rhode Island? They wed in Newport, Rhode Island. James D. Watson and Francis H.C. Crick made this scientific discovery about DNA. It's a double helix, it's got chromosomes, or it has mutations. They discovered it's a double helix. What legendary baseball player was once married to Marilyn Monroe? Was it Babe Ruth? Was Mickey Mantle married to Marilyn Monroe? Or was Marilyn Monroe married to Joe DiMaggio? It was Joe DiMaggio. Which artist's music is commonly referred to as rockabilly? Is that Sam Cooke? Is Carl Perkins known for rockabilly, or is it Connie Francis? Carl Perkins' music is known as rockabilly. In 1954 was the birth year for this talk show host. Was it Maury? Was it Oprah? Or was it Montel Williams? 1954 was the birth year for Oprah Winfrey. What state did the first Miss America contestant hail from? Was she from New York? Was she from California? Or was she from Missouri? She was from California. How many days did the Montgomery bus boycott last? 381, 31, or 155? The Montgomery bus boycott lasted 381 days. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were born in the same year. What is the year? 1950, 1965, or 1955? They were born in 1955. Kermit the Frog made his debut in 1955 on this show. Was it Sesame Street? Was it Sam and Friends? Or was it The Fraggles? He made his debut on Sam and Friends. How much did a burger cost when McDonald's first opened? Did a burger cost you a quarter, 50 cents, or 15 cents? When McDonald's first opened, a burger cost you 15 cents. How did James Dean die? Did he die of a heart attack? Did he die in a car crash? Or did he die of a drug overdose? James Dean died in a car crash. Be My Love was a hit song for which singer? Mario Lanza, El Martino, or Jerry Vale? Be My Love was a hit song for Mario Lanza. Prince Rainier III of Monaco married which actress? Lucille Ball, Grace Kelly, or Audrey Hepburn? He married Grace Kelly. Who had a hit with Tutti Frutti? Was it Little Richard? Was it Johnny Mathis? Or was it Donovan? Tutti Frutti was a hit by Little Richard. In what state did the first indoor mall open? Was it Oregon? Was it Nevada? Or did the first indoor mall open in Minnesota? The first indoor mall opened in Minnesota. What country launched Sputnik 1? Was it Poland? Was it Russia? Or was it the Soviet Union? It was the Soviet Union. In this year, these musicians were born: Prince, Madonna, Alan Jackson, Ice-T, and Andre Bocelli. Was it 1958, 51, or 1965? They were all born in 1958. Whammo is responsible for starting this craze: rock and roll, the slinky, or the hula hoop? What is Whammo responsible for? They are responsible for the hula hoop. What famous jeweler donated the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian Institute? David Yurman, Harry Winston, or Von Cleef and Arpels? It was Harry Winston. Which president fired General Douglas MacArthur? Was it Roosevelt? Was it Truman? Or did Kennedy give him the boot? Douglas MacArthur was shown the door by President Truman. Shaggy's dog, who debuted in September 1969, is named what? Is his name Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Dum, or Scrappy-Doo? His dog is named Scooby-Doo. In what year did the Vietnam War begin? 1961, 1963, or 1960? The Vietnam War began in 1961. The hit song, Blame It on the Blank. Blame it on the mashed potato, blame it on the bossa nova, or blame it on the twist. Blame it on the bossa nova. What company created the first TV dinner? Marie Callender, Swanson, or was the first one created by Healthy Choice? The first TV dinner was made by Swanson. Tenzing Norgay and Sir Edmund Hillary conquered what mountain in 1953? Mount Everest, Mount Kilimanjaro, or was it Mount McKinley? They conquered Mount Everest. True or false? Jonas Salk is credited as creating the vaccine for measles. Is that true or is that false? That would be false. Jonas Salk is credited with creating the vaccine for polio. In what year did the Great Chinese Famine begin? 1960, 1969, or was it 1958? The Great Chinese Famine began in 1958. What famous music event occurred on Max Yasgur's dairy farm in Bethel, New York? Was it the Big Rock Powwow? Was it Woodstock? Or was it the Big Sur Folk Festival? That would be Woodstock. Who became the Prime Minister of India in 1966? Mahatma Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, or Sonia Gandhi? In 1966, the Prime Minister was Indira Gandhi. The Beatles' first single, which was released in the United Kingdom in 1962, was called Love Me Do, 8 Days a Week, or She Loves You. That would be Love Me Do. What country did Botswana and Lesotho gain their independence from? England, Italy, or was it Japan? They gained their independence from England. Apollo blank was the first manned mission. Apollo 2, Apollo 7, or Apollo 1? The first manned mission was Apollo 7. TV show, blank Sunset Strip. 9 Sunset Strip, 212 Sunset Strip, or 77 Sunset Strip? It is 77 Sunset Strip. What TV show featured Arnold the Pig? Was that Green Acres, The Brady Bunch, or was it Mr. Ed? Arnold the Pig was on Green Acres. Who was the first cover and nude centerfold for Playboy magazine? Was it Mary Jane Russell? Was it Marilyn Monroe? Or was it Susie Parker? The first cover and nude centerfold. That honor goes to Marilyn Monroe. The Hungarian Revolution began on October blank 1956. Was it October 23rd? Was it October 31st? Or was it October 2nd, 1956? It began on October 23rd, 1956. Theodore Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss, published which book in 1957? Green Eggs and Ham, The Cat in the Hat, or The Lorax? He published The Cat in the Hat in 1957. Who became dictator of Cuba on January 1st, 1959? Raul Castro, Fidel Castro, or Ramon Castro? That would be Fidel Castro. What year was Pebbles Flintstone born? 1960, 1959, or 1963? Pebbles Flintstone was born in 1963. What group sang the hit song California Dreamin'? The Four Tops, The Fifth Dimension, or the Mamas and the Papas? California Dreamin' was a hit song by the Mamas and the Papas. Coca-Cola introduced which soda in 1960? Did they introduce Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, or Sprite? They introduced Sprite in 1960. In what year were pull tabs introduced on cans? 1961, 1962, or 1963? In what year were pull tabs introduced? That would be 1962. How old was Jim Reeves when he died in a plane crash? Was he 40? Was he 32? Or was he 57 years old? Jim Reeves was 40 years old. In what year was Medicare passed? Medicare was passed by Congress in 1965. And question 100. Before becoming the Milwaukee Braves, what city preceded Braves? Was it Boston, Orlando, or were they the Kansas City Braves? Before being the Milwaukee Braves, they were the Boston Braves. And thank you so much for playing Quiz Time. Don't forget to drop your score in the comments, please. Like, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you don't miss any more Quiz Time. And we'll catch you in the next one.